author of that particular song that we just sang got a little bit of criticism when that song first came out about the word choice of reckless in description of God's love. And if you listen to his explanation as to why he chose that particular word, it's interesting, and it fits into the context of the greater description that we see in that song in the verses and the choruses. He explained the reason he chose that word is that when you look at God's love, it's almost like in his mind he imagines a dad who would run into a burning building on fire, risking his own life to save his child or his family member. And to some who would observe that might look at that act of love as reckless, careless, but it's not. It's an act of just sacrificial love. That's how he described that particular word. And so a lot of focus got placed on that one word, but if you listen to some of the descriptions there, what powerful description of love and kindness. A shepherd who would leave 99 out of his 100 sheep, leave them behind and go chase after just that one who wandered off in some place the sheep shouldn't be. A love that would kick down walls, a love that would climb any mountain, a love that would do anything to chase after the object of that person's love. It's pretty powerful, and words are like that. Words are powerful. They have the power to harm, but certainly they have the power to bring life. And we're going to be talking about our words this morning as we get back into our study of the book of Proverbs. As we've been walking through this series together, we've been talking about how a life of wisdom is just a better way to live life. And we've been learning what a life of wisdom looks like. So far, we've learned that a life of wisdom, according to the book of Proverbs, is a life of faithfulness, a life of patience, a life of generosity and humility and truthfulness. These are themes that we see throughout the book of Proverbs. If you read through the book, you'll notice there's a lot of repetition in themes. So we've gathered those themes together, and I've noticed this too. It's not just themes of topics, they are character qualities. Now next week's going to be a little bit different, but so far we've been talking mostly about these themes that are character qualities of wisdom. As I reflect on what we've talked about so far, we haven't hit it super hard, but hopefully you've noticed along the way that the life of the fool stands in contrast to the life of wisdom. And the life of the fool looks very different. The life of the fool is defined by unfaithfulness and impatience and greed and selfishness and pride and dishonesty. And I think about that, and I'm like, I don't know why anyone would want to pursue the life of a fool when the life of wisdom sounds so much better. So we've been talking about these themes, and I think what we're talking about today is absolutely fits into the importance of wisdom when we talk about our words, the power of words, both spoken and written. The spoken word and the written word have tremendous power, and what we're going to see this morning is that the wise choose to speak with kindness. The wise choose to speak with kindness. Before we dive into the book of Proverbs, I want you to read the words of wisdom that Jesus offers us that I think sets up the tone for everything we want to talk about this morning. Would you open your Bibles and join me in Luke chapter 6? Jesus said something about our words. Something very profound about the importance of our words and what they reveal about us in Luke chapter 6. And I think it'll set the tone for what we're going to be discussing this morning. Luke chapter 6, I want you to look at, verse 43. Verse 43. Jesus describes this tree, and he says that a good tree cannot produce bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot produce good fruit. A tree is identified by its fruit. You're not going to find figs on a thorn bush. You're not going to gather grapes. You're not going to pick grapes from a briar bush. And he uses that imagery then to talk about our hearts, our lives. And he says in verse 45, a good person produces good things, but it comes from this treasury, from this deposit of a good heart. And in contrast, he says that an evil person produces evil things, but where's it coming from? It's coming from this place of deposit, this treasury of an evil heart. And then he makes a statement. He says, what you say, your mouth, your words, our words, what comes out of us, it flows from this place in our heart. The mouth speaks what the heart is full of. The mouth speaks what the heart is full of. I remember when I first got married. We were talking a lot of years ago. Angie and I first got married. I'd say in the first year or two of our marriage, I put on some weight. And at that particular time, I wasn't really concerned about eating healthy, didn't go to the gym, and I was drinking a lot of Kool-Aid, a lot of it, a lot of sugar. And at that time, I was still coming off of, that high school, college metabolism that I thought I still had, and it was beginning to change, and it was catching up to me. So I put on a little bit of weight. I wasn't at my best healthy weight, let's put it that way. Details don't matter. After church one Sunday, now let me just emphasize where I was. I was not in the locker room with my buddies. I was not at the bar with a bunch of drunk people. I was at church. You get where I'm going? I was at church. This lady came up to me after the service, long time ago. She's not even alive anymore, right? So I'm not going to offend anyone, I don't think. If you know this story, you know who it is. Don't tell anyone who it is, all right? It's 20 years ago. Doesn't matter. This lady came up to me after the service. She walked right up to me, no warning. Poked me right here in the belly. And she said to me, these are her exact words, "Oh my." Oh my. You're getting a belly like your dad. She insulted me and my dad in 5 seconds. Incredible, almost impressive if it wasn't so rude, right? Who does that? She spoke truth, but it wasn't kind. Jesus said the mouth, what comes out of our mouths, reveals what's in our hearts. And I reflect over that story a long time ago. It doesn't matter anymore. But as I reflect over that, I guess I kind of wonder, what's in someone's heart that would make it okay to say something so unkind, something so rude to another person? See, this is why we need to learn how to live a life of wisdom. See, both the spoken and the written word have tremendous power. That's a long time ago. And I've let it go. I've forgiven. I don't need therapy over it. It's not that bad. But I'm telling you, that moment is burned in my brain. I know where I was standing. I know the tone of her voice. Because it hurt in the moment. It was unkind, and it hurt me. Words have power. And maybe some of you have stories like that you could tell. Unpleasant moments when people just have been unkind. But here's what we're going to learn this morning. The wise, those of us who want to live a life of wisdom, we have to understand the power of words and choose to speak with kindness. According to Jesus, our words reflect what's really going on in our hearts. And so as we study the book of Proverbs this morning and we're listening for wisdom, I just want you to remember that what we're doing right now is not a civics lesson on how to be nice. What we're doing this morning is something deeper, more important than just reminding each other to be polite and don't go around insulting people. There's something more significant happening in what we're talking about in God's Word. There's something spiritual that touches people's souls, that touches people's minds and bodies in our words. What we're talking about this morning, it matters because on any given day, any normal day, our spoken words, our written words, they reflect what's in our hearts. And so if they are not kind, It's good for us to pause and wonder why that is. What's going on inside my heart that just came out of my mouth? I want to take a closer look at the power of words this morning in the book of Proverbs. Go ahead and turn back to Proverbs chapter 15. Proverbs chapter 15, verse 1. The first reason why it is wise to speak with kindness is this: kind words reduce tensions. Kind words reduce tensions. Proverbs 15, verse 1 says that a gentle answer, kind words, deflect anger. You might have a version that says, turns away wrath. And that first part of the proverb stands in contrast to the second part that talks about harsh words. Harsh words, well, they make tempers flare up. They stir the pot. They stir up anger. Gentle words, kind words, reduce tension, deflects anger, turns away wrath, and harsh words, unkind words, have the opposite effect. I am sure that if we were just to sit down one-on-one in a small setting, small group setting, and we were just honest with each other about some of our shortcomings in our words, we could probably all tell a story or two of embarrassing moments, words we wish we could get back with our spouse, maybe with our kids, maybe towards our parents. Maybe times when we have stirred the pot in our words, in not just spoken but written posts online. We stir the pot, we inflame the tensions instead of trying to bring them down. Some of us maybe could even tell some embarrassing stories of going to a ball game and saying things to the ref or to an opposing fan that, although may be true, were unnecessarily harsh or unkind. I would imagine that we could probably tell stories like that, but as I was reflecting over this verse, I thought, what's the most vivid picture that I can think of when it comes to the contrast between a certain particular setting that you would find yourself in and the difference between a kind word and a harsh word, between a gentle answer and an insensitive one. And what came to mind was customer service. If you and I find ourselves in need of customer service, there's a problem. That's why we're talking to customer service, because something has gone wrong. Something is not right. At least that's been my experience. Maybe you do this. I don't. I have never called up anyone from any company and talked to their customer service rep, waited online for 45 minutes listening to weird music just so I could tell the person that I've never met and don't know who they are, hey, just wanted you to know your product is working great. Thank you. And if you could see me, you'd see 2 thumbs up. Keep up the good work. I've never done that. I don't think I ever would do that. When we talk to someone from customer service, there's a problem. Now, it might not be a big problem, or it might be a significant problem. Our frustration level might be high, or it might be, I need to get this taken care of, and this person is the one that needs to help me. Over the counter, over the phone, this is the person I'm dealing with. And I have noticed this, that the person that we deal with on the other end of the phone, the person that we deal with on the other side of that counter has the power in their words, in their tone, to take a small problem that I'm not that upset about, and I just need it resolved. And yet they have the power to take it and magnify it into something I'm ready to jump through the phone and deal with. And I've also noticed that there are some problems that I've had, and I am just irritated, and it doesn't seem right, it doesn't seem fair, and there's this injustice against me, and so I am dealing with a customer service rep, and I'm hot, and I want this person to know that I'm hot, and I have noticed that some customer reps have this power in their words, in their calm tone, to make that, I don't know how they did it, other than a calm tone and kind word, they made it the best part of my day. I was hot when I called, and now that was a great experience. Thank you. Thank you for your help and understanding. What's the difference? The difference is the words that were chosen, the tone that was chosen. You and I have choices that we make every day in the words that we use, the tone that we speak words in, the demeanor that we carry around with us as we walk into a room. We all make choices about how we present ourselves to the world around us. And there's going to be days when even if you get up in the morning and you have decided that you are going to present yourself to the world with kindness and grace and love, there are still going to be days when we are going to have people treat us poorly. There's going to be times in our everyday normal lives that people are going to be mad at us. Maybe we messed up, maybe we didn't. There are people that are going to give us attitude, and maybe it's our fault and maybe it's not. There is going to be tension and conflict in life that is an unavoidable part of our everyday lives. But you and I don't have to make it worse. We can make it worse, but we don't have to. We can make things worse with the things that we say or the things that we post, but we don't have to. We can choose to say or to write words that bring tensions down, that at least try to move towards reconciliation and peace and understanding. We don't have to stir the pot and just see what happens for our own entertainment. We don't have to do that. We can choose kindness with the goal of, okay, things are hot right now, tensions are high. Let's see what we can do to bring the temperature down and work towards peace. And we can do that with words. Words are powerful. The spoken and the written word have power, and the wise choose to speak with kindness. The second reason why the wise speak with kindness, not only do kind words reduce tensions, but according to Proverbs, kind words also promote healing. Kind words promote healing. Listen to this one, Proverbs 16:24. Go ahead and look at that one, Proverbs 16:24. Kind words are like, what word do you have? Honey. Honey is sweet. Honey is pleasant. Honey is enjoyable. And the proverb says that kind words are like honey, sweet, pleasant, enjoyable. But I love the second part of this. There is something, it's not just sweet to the ear, there is something sweet to the soul. Kind words are like honey, sweet to the soul, and listen to this, there's something physical about this, healthy to the body. And why would that be? Well, think in terms of your own life experience. If someone says something unkind, harsh to you, and it hurts. So there's something in your soul that gets wounded by that, but you know that there's something physical that happens. Whether it's the ire that happens in us and we get tense, our blood pressure goes up, our face gets red, we feel hot, right? Maybe there's anger, or maybe we're just crushed. Like that crushed me, and now it almost feels like there's something rumbling around in our stomach and we might be sick. Like there's a physical part to this in the words that are said to us. And this is saying the kind words have a different impact. They're like honey to the soul. They're healing to the body. Kind words are encouraging words. Words that build people up. Words that make people feel loved, make people feel noticed and cared for. Kind words affirm, you matter to me. Your life, your soul, you matter to me. Kind words express love, and that when you are the recipient of kind words, encouraging words, words of affirmation, it's just good for the soul. According to a psychologist named John Gottman, he's done some research on negative words, positive words, and the impact that it has on people's lives. And according to his research, It takes 5 positive statements of affirmation or kindness spoken to someone to cancel out just one negative comment that has wounded that person, one criticism that has pierced the heart. 5-to-1 ratio is what he's found. Now, that's probably an average. There's probably some people that aren't quite as sensitive, others that are way more sensitive. But on average, his discovery and his research says it's a 5-to-1 ratio. If that's true, I personally am just thankful for people in my life. There's this one man in our church. It also goes all the way back to the beginning of my ministry. And for 25 years, this man has been relentless, intentional, and consistent in speaking words of kindness, and encouragement, and affirmation into my soul. And I certainly wouldn't want to try to do the math on it, because in order to do the math on it, that would require going down and writing every insult, every unkind thing that someone's ever said to me. And I don't think that's productive. I don't know that would be a pleasant experience. So I don't know that that's how I would want to figure the ratio out. But I can say this. I am pretty confident that if I were to do something like that this man would have over doubled the 5-to-1 ratio in my life. He's just been that kind and consistent. And I don't know if you have someone like that in your life or not. I hope that you do. I hope that you have someone in your life that just speaks kindness to you. I recognize not everybody does, but here's the challenge. You and I can be that person in the lives of other people. Maybe you don't have a lot of people in your life that are speaking kindness and affirmation to you. Okay, well, we can pray that God would provide those people, but you and I, we have the opportunity every day to be that person in the life of someone else. I think most people that you know, most people that I know are well aware of their shortcomings. They don't need someone to poke them and make a comment. I think most people in our lives are well aware of their own failures and faults. They don't need someone to remind them of their imperfections. They are well aware. And so I would argue that what most people in our lives actually need is someone, just someone in their lives who will consistently and intentionally speak words of kindness, encouragement, and affirmation into their soul. Proverbs 12:18 is another proverb that I think is important in this particular point. Listen to this, Proverbs 12:18. Some people make cutting remarks. So what's a cutting remark? Well, the NIV uses the word reckless words. Now there, you see that word is used in a negative context. But what's interesting about that particular proverb is that it describes these words that are unkind, that are unnecessarily harsh, as piercing the heart. Well, it's describing words that hurt, words that wound. And in contrast to that, listen to this, but there are words of the wise. These words are kind words, affirmation words, encouraging words that bring healing. I think it's important to just maybe take a moment and think about some of the cutting words. If I were to ask you, give me an example. What are some words that we want to stay away from? What are words that are harsh and unkind that we want to make sure, okay, don't say these things. These are not okay. That probably wouldn't be too hard. We would say, okay, if we're putting them on the board, mean words, words that are harsh, words that are unkind, words that demean someone. We would put that on the board. Words that intentionally hurt someone, you know where the button is with some people in your life, and you know what's going to wound them, and that's what you say because you're trying to hurt them. Okay, let's put that on the board. words that make fun of someone's appearance, words that make fun of someone's physical or intellectual limitations, words that may possibly be true, but it's not necessary. If we were to make that kind of list, I think we would quickly agree, okay, this is out of bounds. For someone who's following Jesus, these are not kind words. Let's avoid this in our speech. But I thought, it would be helpful to just think maybe a little bit deeper about some of our speech that in some instances can be appropriate and fine, but in other cases, it's just not. It's out of bounds. And so, for example, when it comes to sarcasm, when it comes to good-natured, what I would call ribbing or good-natured kidding. In my circle of friends, in my family, that's certainly part of our sense of humor. Good-natured kidding and even sarcastic comments. That's just part of how we communicate with one another, and for the most part, it's fine. And as we get into what sarcasm is and what good-natured fun can potentially look like, I think it's important to just understand that as long as everybody's having fun, it's fun. But sometimes, even in a close relationship, it can be too much. It's kind of like salt and pepper. It can be good seasoning, and it can enhance some things, but when you get too much, you can ruin things. And sometimes people take things too far. But I thought about sarcasm specifically according to Webster's dictionary. This is fascinating. Sarcasm refers to the use of words that mean the opposite of what you really want to say. That's what sarcasm is. But there are 3 reasons why we use it. Number 1 reason we use sarcasm is to insult someone. Number 2 reason that we use it is to express or show our irritation. And the 3rd reason is to be funny. And I find it fascinating that in that definition, 2 out of the 3 purposes or reasons why we are using sarcasm are not okay. So we have to be careful. It's like we say, you take this phrase. So someone says, they are really on top of things. And in the context of that, a person could mean, I have this experience with this group of people. They're so disorganized. It was a terrible experience. They're really on top of things over there. And so in used in that sense, it's insulting, and it's meant to express irritation. But it could, in certain contexts, be fun in the sense that, let's say you're part of the team. And things are tense. You're part of this team. You dropped the ball. Things didn't turn out, and we should have prepared better. We would have had a better outcome if we'd have put a little more preparation in, a little more thought. And things got away from us, and we bombed. We failed in our mission as a team. Okay, and people were feeling down. And in a certain place, in a certain time, in a certain right moment, it can be lighthearted to say, man, we were really on top of things. And so there's a time and place for it. And it's fun as long as everyone's having fun. But I guess I want to caution us on a couple things when it comes to some of the lighthearted ways that we use words. Number 1, not everyone can take a joke. You just need to understand that about people. Not everyone can take a joke. Some people are more sensitive than others, and you need to know that about people. And it's not okay to say, what's your problem? Can't you take a joke? Right? No, I can't. I can't take a joke. All right? They're not going to say that, but just to have a sensitivity that's true of some people. It's also true that not every relationship that you have has the same level of trust. See, sarcasm, good-natured humor, and kidding with one another, it works if there's a high level of trust and love in a relationship. That's when it works. But if you try to use, I'll call it humor in this way, with people that you don't have a relationship with, people that you don't have high levels of trust with, 8, 9 times out of 10, it's just going to come across as rude. You're just going to sound like a jerk. Because you don't have that relationship. And it just comes across as snarky and rude. So just have an awareness of that. that there are certain types of humor that are appropriate in certain cases, in moderation, not too much. You don't want to take it too far where you hurt someone you care about. But it has to do with some people who are more sensitive, just have an awareness of that, and certainly there needs to be a certain level of trust. Well, how do we know? How do we have discernment? You need wisdom. You need wisdom. High levels of trust. And so as I kind of thought through that, it reminded me of this verse from Ephesians chapter 4. I have this one on the screen for you. Ephesians 4:29 reminds us not to let unwholesome talk come out of our mouths, but when we speak, to make sure that it's beneficial to the other person. Make sure that it builds them up. Focus on encouraging words. Sometimes you want to be funny. Sometimes you want to be clever. We want to be witty. And maybe that's not what that person needs right then. Maybe what that person needs more than some quick wit is some words of kindness and affirmation. And having wisdom and discernment to read the room, to know the moment, takes wisdom. I think sometimes it would be good for us just to pause in life and reflect on the fact that maybe instead of trying so hard to be witty and clever and funny all the time, if we spent more time just focusing on, I've got an opportunity every day with X number of people, and throughout the day, what could I do, what can I say that would encourage and affirm and bless someone? How could I use words today in the opportunities that are before me to bless the soul of another person? Now, that might be a better focus than how can I make everyone in the room laugh. See, both the spoken and the written word have power, and the wise choose to speak with kindness. Here's the third reason why the wise speak with kindness. Not only do kind words reduce tension, not only do kind words promote healing, but kind words also, according to Proverbs, breathe life. They breathe life. Listen to this from Proverbs 18:21. Proverbs 18:21. The tongue can bring death or life. Now, the rest of that proverb is interesting. It says those who talk too much reap the consequences of that. That's maybe for another sermon. Right now, we're just focusing on the kindness of our words. And it's interesting that the words of the wise understand that our words can bring death. They can hurt, but they can also breathe life. Our words of kindness can build confidence in people. Let's say you've got someone in your life. They've got a big challenge in front of them, and they're nervous, and they're afraid, and they feel insecure. Well, here's an opportunity to breathe life, to build confidence with your words. Someone that you know that's going through a hard time, and they're walking through some sorrow, and they're struggling. And they just need someone to come alongside and breathe life into their soul with some kindness and encouragement. We have that opportunity before us. Someone that just needs to know that they're loved, that they're seen, that they matter. And that you and I just noticed them and said something to bless their day. You know, I grew up in a family where our parents told us that they loved us, told us that they were proud of us a lot. That was pretty common every day. Our parents were pretty positive in the way that they communicated to us, and that's a blessing. You know, and it's especially when I look back on my childhood, teenage years. There's a lengthy list of things that I would say I'm not super proud of these things. Why would you be proud of me, Mom and Dad? But that's the family I grew up in. My dad would say things to me like, Mark, I don't care if you grow up to be a doctor or a ditch digger, as long as you love the Lord and give God your best, I'm going to be proud of you. You say things like that. Now, I'm not exactly sure why the profession of ditch digger is at the bottom of the of the list there from my dad. I never really asked him that. But here's what I think he meant by it. I think what he meant by that statement is, Mark, you don't have to have a job that makes lots of money in order to earn my affirmation and make me proud. There are more important measures of a man than an impressive title. I think that's what he meant by that. And so I was blessed to grow up with parents like that, but I recognize that not everybody was or is. Some of you grew up being told that you are worthless, being told that you will never amount to anything. Some of you grew up with this pressure to perform at a high level, and if you didn't perform at this high level of expectation from your parents, you heard about it. Like their affirmation of you was dependent on how well you did. And you might hear comments like, okay, you got an A minus. Why didn't you get an A plus? Maybe you should work a little harder. Why can't you be more like so-and-so? I bet they got an A plus. I bet they scored X amount of points in the game because they work harder than you. Some of you, you know what that feels like to never feel good enough, because that's the words that were spoken to you. Some of you know the pain of being made fun of for something you can't help. Some of you know what it feels like to be constantly reminded of your past mistakes. People can't seem to let them go, and they keep bringing them up, reminding you to the point where now it almost feels like this is your identity. Your past and the failures of the past is who you are. No, but that's how you feel. If any of that relates or resonates with you, listen to the words of Jesus. Jesus was hanging on the cross. He had nails in his hands, nails in his feet, and he was suffocating. He was enduring unimaginable agony for every breath. He had to push up on his feet just to breathe. And he was hanging there, enduring all of that, so that you and I could be forgiven of our sin. He allowed himself to be the perfect, sinless sacrifice to appease the wrath of God against our sin. He took our place. That's why he's hanging on the cross. And while he was dying for us, he looked down at the people who were scoffing at him, making fun of him, treating him with disgust. He looked at them, and the words that came out of his mouth were, "Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing." Those were the words of kindness that Jesus said to the most heartless bunch you could gather on a hill. When everyone was ready to stone this woman that the religious leaders had caught in the act of adultery, and they paraded her out to humiliate her, Jesus was the one who said words of kindness. "I don't condemn you. Now go and sin no more." When Peter denied that he even knew who Jesus was 3 times in the courtyard while this rigged trial was going on for Jesus, and instead of standing up for his friend, he told the people in that courtyard, "I don't even know who you're talking about. I don't know him." But on the other side of the cross, on the other side of the resurrection, Jesus pulled Peter aside and he used words of kindness and restoration, because that's who Jesus is. He's kind. He's strong, but he's kind. And I don't know every unkind, painful word that has ever pierced your heart, but God does. And he wants you to know that you matter. He wants you to know that you are loved, that you are not too far gone. He wants you to know that you don't have to prove yourself worthy. How do I know that this is the kindness of God towards you? Listen to this from Romans 5:8. God demonstrates his own love for us, and while you and I were still sinners, still enemies of God, Christ chose to die for us. He didn't wait for us to figure it out. He didn't wait for us to clean ourselves up and fly right. He took that step of kindness, love, and grace towards us. That's the love and kindness of God. And there are people in our lives that need to hear this kindness and love, these words of God's grace spoken into their lives. Those of us who have received God's grace, could we just remind ourselves that there are people that God places in our lives every day. They desperately need just to hear some words of kindness. And God has entrusted us with this responsibility to be His ambassadors of love, grace, and kindness in this world. See, the spoken word, the written word has power. We all know that to be true, but it is the wise who understands this and chooses to speak kindness. What if this week, as we just think about how do we work this out, how do we apply what we've talked about, what if this week we committed ourselves every day to just choose kind words, whether we're online, the things that we post, or whether we're in person, if we just made a commitment, us and God, help me to choose kind words this week. And we can start at home. We can start at home with the words that we speak to our spouse, the words that we speak to our children, the words that we speak to our parents. And maybe even take it a step farther. Maybe what we could do this week is just write a note of affirmation, a note of encouragement to someone in our home, and leave that somewhere where they'll find it, maybe in their lunchbox, maybe on the counter of the bathroom. Listen, if you want to get clever and you're going to write something in the mirror, please don't use permanent marker and then someone gets mad at me and writes me an email. You told them to do a note and there's ruined my mirror. I'm just telling you, use something you can wipe off. All right? That happened in the past and I got unkind words about it. So there you go. Not just at home, but what about at school? Some of you students go to school with some kids that they're not treated with kindness. They're treated like they don't matter. They're treated with harsh, demeaning words all the time. And they feel insignificant. They feel like nobody loves them or cares about them. They feel small. And you have the opportunity as a student to notice people that just need a kind word and maybe make a commitment that you're gonna offer compliments, not insincere compliments, just genuine compliments that you can offer to someone that maybe it gets overlooked or maybe gets picked on. All right, you have the opportunity to do that. Or at work, there's probably someone that you work with that is hard to love. Someone that you work with that on any given day you're just trying to avoid because you know at any given moment they could blow up and they act unkind and you just don't want that part of your day. But maybe a few times this week you could be intentional about just risking it and being in their presence and saying something kind and affirming and encouraging. What about at church? Let's get weird about it. Let's get awkward. How about before you leave today, make a commitment that you're going to say 3 kind, affirming, encouraging things, or 1 to 3 different people. How's that? 3 people that you're going to speak words of affirmation and encouragement to before you get in your car today. And here's the test. You ready? If you can pull that off without sounding sarcastic, right? Because if you say, this might be a heart check for some of us. If you give someone a compliment and they look at you like, I'm not sure if they meant that or if they're making fun of me, it might reveal something that you need to dial down the sarcasm in your normal conversation. Just saying, that might be true. Well, Tammy, you brought up a good question. That's why I said it could be weird and awkward. I had a couple people after first service. It's a good point. Some people after service say, "Now listen, I'm not saying this because the pastor told me to say it. I don't know. If you had to preface it, maybe you are. No, just be genuine and authentic. Just be kind. Don't make it be forced. Do your best with it. May the words of Jesus ring in our ears this week. What's the words of Jesus? For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. So let's listen to the words that are coming out of our mouths, and let's consider, what does it reveal about what's in our hearts? Lord, thank you for your love, your kindness, your grace, your words of kindness. You are the one who said that you're the good shepherd who leaves the 99 and goes after the one. You said that, Lord. Those are your words of kindness. You are the one who said that you loved us so much that you sent your only Son to die on a cross in our place because you wanted to have relationship, eternal relationship with us. You said that. And so we stand in awe of your goodness and your kindness, your love and your grace. And I pray, God, that you would fill my heart, that you would fill our hearts collectively with so much love, so much grace, that there's no room for anything else. And that's what comes out of our mouths, because it just overflows from our hearts. Do that for us, Lord, by the power of your Holy Spirit, in Jesus' name. Amen. Let's stand and finish with this song.